Hello and welcome back to our next video, created to help business leaders drive efficiencies with their technology. Today we have Daniel Hagen, who is the owner of Optimal Telecom Solutions. Daniel Hagen is very knowledgeable about cloud-based phone, internet, and mobility business solutions. These are all services that every business will need as the industry keeps changing. So let's jump right in. Well, Daniel, I'm excited to have you on and do a video with you. I have worked with you for, over a decade.
It's been a while. Yes.
You provide a lot of services for us and a lot of our clients, specifically around telecom and getting internet services and some of that. But your industry's changed a lot. So I wanted to get a feel from you in terms of what some of the services are that you provide.
Excellent. Thanks. It's a real privilege, Matt, to always spend time with you. We don't get to do that as much as we used to.
Right.
We've known each other a long time, and it has changed tremendously because we were pretty much writing internet business only is what we've done for years. And as important as that is, and as mission critical as that is to a business to run, when you think about it as a business owner, what do you do when your internet's down? It just stops everything. So having that discussion and working with the right ISP and making sure that you're not spinning your wheels or having your people sit on the customer service call for an hour to get help. You need a trusted advisor in that space. And so we work there. That's been where I cut my teeth. As you know, we've done that with mutual clients for years. Setting up their internet and finding the right provider is the key. And we're agnostic. Optimal Telecom Solutions does not just sell Comcast or CenturyLink. We have multiple carriers now. If you live up north or in the Monument area of our Pikes Peak region, I love companies like Force Broadband up there. I like United Private Networks when we get into fiber down here in the Colorado Springs general area. Falcon Broadband, which changed names, rebranded as Stratus IQ.
Yeah.
I like them a lot as well. So where they play, very few people are unhappy when they hear that name or when they work with them. So our goal is to just sit down with your clients, and that's what we've done in the past, and help them find the right provider at the right price and make sure that they're delivering the right service to your customers.
I could think of a few real advantages to that. One of them is internet service is a very location-based service. And so if you're talking to a Comcast or a CenturyLink or, a name and maybe there's others in your neighborhood that you don't know about, they may not be the best solution for that location.
Right.
And how would you know? And if you sign a 3-year contract or longer, that's a long time to find out you made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
So working with someone like you, I've always loved referring you because you know the locations and what's available in different areas and some of the challenges. You've heard the stories. And so that's a huge advantage. Now, are you expensive for my clients?
That's the beautiful thing is we get paid by the provider, by the carrier. And as a result, we can basically do that service for free. We actually do the consulting work and help you find the right solution. We'll bring a couple solutions to the table and let you decide. But then as we're compensated from the carrier, we don't have to charge that to your customers.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
I love that. It's always nice to be able to refer someone that's going to help them and take them through the process. And the cost is free,
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
so
when we
great.
walk in the door, there's no charge. And of course, that is something I've thought about for years. Should I change that? But it's worked for me. And so if it's adding value to the client, typically it always works out for me in the end. So I don't have to worry about the compensation piece.
So that sounds really good. Are there other benefits that come to working with a trusted advisor like you?
That's an awesome question. I have found that for a client that is actually trying to go into a space that's not their wheelhouse, they're trying to find the right internet provider, who's the best phone system provider, who can bring me the things that I need without just having to go do Google searches, which is fine. And there's all kinds of information available there, but the trusted advisor model is just standing beside your customers and saying, we want to help you find the best solution at the best price and do that from experience. And from experience, you kind of know the ins and outs with these providers, these carriers. They maybe look great on the surface and they provide a great price, But if they're not delivering service on the back end, it's going to be a miserable experience for the customer. One of the local big financial service companies made a change recently, and they got into it about a month or two, and they had to completely pull it out and start over. It's unfortunate. You think of the money that costs them to do that, because it's time, it's relearning things. So if you can get some of that from your advisor, knowing some of those pitfalls that you're not going to fall into, and the highs and lows for the carriers, because they all have them. Matt, I wish you could say they're all like one carrier is just the best, but they all have weak spots. And I've kind of learned those blind spots, I guess you could say, with the different carriers, so I can make a recommendation that's going to fit the customer.
That makes sense. It reminds me of a phrase that I heard once, that if you work with a bankruptcy attorney, they're going to sell you a bankruptcy. Like that's how that works, right? So if you work with a Comcast rep, they're going to sell you Comcast. When you get to work with someone that can broker different services in different areas and somebody that you can trust, they're going to be able to have a lot more options to bring to the table and find you the right solution, so that they're really more focused on the right solution for your business than focused on just selling one specific service.
100%. And it's the old square peg in a round hole philosophy. When I was a direct rep for a company back in the day that's now part of the Verizon network, when I was out selling that product, we had to do whatever it took to get that product in there. We would square and cut and jive, and sometimes it wasn't always the right fit. And unfortunately, that is not a good thing for the customer in the end result. So as I got out of that and got into this side of the business, and they call it the indirect channel, where it's not a direct rep for a particular company like you mentioned, selling them the service. It's indirect, where we're a different channel within Comcast and CenturyLink, Lumen now, all those providers. But the nice thing is we're not only there. So we can take them down whatever path we need to go that really works for them.
That's awesome.
And if an owner can save time and money of not having to spend that time and deal with the carriers directly and not have to pay for that service, that's where we feel we're adding value to your customers.
I think it's critical for business leaders to find those types of partnerships. It's what you're describing is very much of what we do, in technology. And I just think, like, when they bring us in as a technology advisor, there's such a high level of trust that has to exist both ways, that we're not just going to sell a service that has a higher margin. We're actually going to sell a service that fits the needs of the business. And that's something I believe very strongly in, that businesses need to have technology that fits their needs. And that's why I've worked with you for so long.
It's been a good partnership, good collaboration between us for that.
I'm really curious how the industry has changed and some of the new services that you help clients in the same way, beyond just internet service.
In regards to telecommunications, they have rebranded a couple words that people may or may not hear out there. UCaaS is one of the terms they use, Unified Communications as a Service. That's your phone system. And nowadays, that has changed. It's morphing. You add and flavor that with things like AI technology, where while you're doing your phone call, you have your transcription going over here on the right side of the screen, transcribing everything you're saying. You have a call recording that's going to be there at the end of the call. And at the end of the call, you get a little summary that says, Daniel and Matt talked about technology today, and here's a couple action points they came away from that call with. And I've got all that available to me. And all I did was pick up the phone and call. Or in this case, I may not even have picked up the phone. Now it doesn't have to be a handset. It can be on their computer. It can be click and point and click, or just highlight a phone number on a website or on a link and just call it.
Yeah, I'm sure it could just be a little AirPod that sits in their ear, and they can do business that way.
There you go. And it doesn't have to be a high level. Your people here have some great headsets, and that's nice. And that would be important when you want noise cancellation in the background and so forth. But you can even just hook up, AirPods, like you said, to the computer. And surprisingly, it works well. The other technology thing that we're seeing is now it's more important, how does your customer want to communicate with you? And it's not always picking up the phone. Sometimes they're going to want to text. They're going to want to do SMS, or they may just want to chat, or You let them decide what that mode of communication is. Today they call that omni-channel, Matt. They've given it a name. That means multi-modes or modalities that you can communicate with your clients, what works for them. And that's more getting into what's called contact center as a service, where you used to think of an old call center, for example. You just pictured just rows and rows of people sitting there in a building, all in little cubicles. And that's there still to a degree. But today, a lot of those contact centers don't all sit in one building. They're spread out over the whole entire country, fielding calls and queues, but they're not all sitting together. And so building the right contact center environment, giving them the reporting, like the screens we saw on your wall just a few minutes ago, that's critical to be able to have the analytics and the reporting to run your business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. Well, can you tell me about mobility expense management? I know that's a big thing that a lot of companies have a lot of mobile devices and they're trying to manage them. They're trying to understand their costs and save money and do it effectively and efficiently. Yep. What does that look like now? I know that industry has changed a lot.
It has. Oh my goodness. And it's the big three are still out there. T-Mobile picked up Sprint and became a bigger player now in the game. AT&T and Verizon really make up the mix. And I have providers within each one of those brands who work well in that space, like a mutual client that we work with that's doing Verizon. Has loved having a company that can use machine learning in the background, looking at their bills every month and saying what plans, what should be unlimited, what should just be on a usage plan, and how can we maximize the system within Verizon. It's a really unique process of expense management, all done on their technology. And they use that technology, if you will, or that medium to save you money. And it's ridiculously big savings, man. It's 25+% per month savings. And they ask a small amount per device to do that. But in the end result, it's better than them taking a percentage of the savings. They just charge you that small device amount, and then you get all these savings every month based on the machine learning in the back end.
That's wild. I'm finding the days of doing things on premise with physical servers and physical phone systems and all the hardware and maintenance that goes into maintaining that is going to be really ineffective way of running a business. And so business leaders that are resistant to change and they don't want to make some of these transitions are going to be held back. And I think the biggest reason for that was what you were just touching on is AI technology is empowering businesses in ways that an employee can't. And, these companies wouldn't be able to afford the amount of labor that it would take to do what some of these technologies are doing. But if you're not in a cloud environment, like with your phone system or some of these other technologies, you're missing out on anything that AI could ever help you with, because AI is in the cloud, right? It's not going to be impacting your local server environment and creating efficiencies in your environment. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to still happen, for business leaders, and they need trusted advisors like us, like what we do, to help guide and direct that process. So what's a good way that people can find out about you, learn more, and just start a conversation?
Excellent. Best way to do that is to reach out to us, give me a call, and find out how we can take a look at which piece makes the most sense to start. Maybe it would be, maybe you're complaining, your people are complaining about their internet speeds, or maybe they're complaining about not being able to get good quality phone service working from their homes. Or maybe they're just, you're trying to run the business on a mobility platform that's getting kind of out of hand. You got cell phones in drawers and trucks and things, and you're trying to figure out the best way to manage all that. Then we might go down that road first. In fact, it's kind of a nice way to start with mobility, because those cost savings then we can use to invest in other technologies. And cloud-based phone system today has become not like cutting edge or bleeding edge. Now it's essential to running your business. Because if you can run your business on your cell phone, but show that you're calling from the office, that's a wonderful thing. And you just do that over an app. Right. It's a really different type of phone service. And the other thing too, Matt, I think it's important for clients to know, When you talk about a prem system, which premise-based servers we were just talking about has been the norm. But premise-based phone systems have limitations. We saw that day one when COVID said, okay, we're shutting down. Everybody's moving home. They're like, how do I take this phone home? That was the first call. I was getting calls like crazy. I remember the day when Denver shut down. In regards to that, they've got to be able to function on whatever device they're on. If they want to work it all from their cell phone, they can do that. If they want to work it off their laptop, they can do that. And do it from wherever they are, as long as they have internet.
All right, so Daniel, I've got a question for you. How often should people be reviewing their internet service? It seems like most contracts are probably 2 or 3 years.
That's correct.
Typical. So, how often should they do it? And would it make sense for people to talk to you when it comes time to reviewing those services?
Absolutely, and not just at the end of the term. 6 months to a year ahead of the end of the term, because some providers we can either look at increasing what you have for less, so you're getting better speed at about the same price you're paying today, which I do often with my clients, even in existing terms.
Sure.
We keep an eye on that because 3 years, a lot changes. We're in the first stretch now where we've actually seen costs go up. It's been years and years where everything just kept going down, like it was going to nothing. And now we've seen some increases. So I always recommend a term. I like 36 months because when you see the process that we go through with this in making a good decision for the right provider, you realize it's not something you want to do every year. A year goes by, snap, it's gone. And you're right back out there researching again or engaging me in the process. So I like a 36-month term, especially for phone systems, because that really doesn't need to be done that quick.
Right.
And but getting some savings, I think a 24, 36-month term, you're right on.
So is that how it works? Like if you do a longer term, do you get a lower monthly price?
Typically, yeah. In fact, most carriers, that's what they love to quote now. They'll start at 36 months. I actually have some providers going 60-month now. And there is times where that makes sense. If you have a long-term lease and you're in your building and you're bringing fiber in, maybe spreading that out over 60 months makes sense now because you're absorbing the cost of the build and you're getting that for a little bit less.
Well, you made a really good point. If costs are going up every year, you don't want to be 5 years later, or every year your costs going up. If you could lock that in, that's a big savings there. So
Comcast is smart with their recent contracts. They're doing it now where they've added year on year. It's a 36-month term, and it starts low, but then it crescendos up a little bit. So those are the things that we catch and we watch from the front end for you to make sure, is that what you want to do? Yeah. Or maybe just do a fixed rate. But really, the fixed rate, they're kind of going away from completely. So you just need to be aware of that.
So would people give you a call, or what's the best way for them to?
They can give me a call, or they can also reach out to us on our website, optimaltelecomsolutions.com. Also, we go by optitele.com, an abbreviated website, and because it's a long name, and yet we can direct them from there.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us today and educating some of these business leaders about these new services and how the technology is changing and why it's probably good to review and how they're doing their services.
And more often than not, the review itself, if you haven't looked at it in a little while, it's good to just let's get in there and let's look at these different deliveries, different services that we've talked about today.
That's great.
It's so cool, Matt, because we've worked together so long. We'll get a chance now for people that you and I have worked with that I've never actually seen. Just like a chance for them to see me and see you and I working together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
My privilege. Thank you.